So what happened once that door comes open?
Once the door comes open, I move up to where Detective Nobles. So if this plexiglass was the door and Detective Nobles was hitting it with the ram with his, I guess, from the left side of his body, after the third strike that breached that door at the strike plate in the door handle area, once that door was breached, Detective Nobles then pivoted back out, so towards me, behind me, which was would be the parking lot area.
And what did you do?
I immediately filled that void that was created by Detective Nobles moving with the ram out of the way.
And what did you see? Or what happened?
As I moved up and I was to the right side of the door, closest to the hallway, like I previously mentioned, I had my gun out already, down at the ready position, and I immediately could see. Let me rephrase. I immediately could see darkness in the apartment, no lights on, and then almost instantaneously I saw a large muzzle flash from directly in front of me where you would be, directly in front of me, a large muzzle flash. And I'll describe the muzzle flash more specifically, is that we do, as it was described by Officer Galehausen yesterday, the muzzle flash was not a muzzle flash that I would commonly identify as a handgun muzzle flash. This was a large fire muzzle flash that I could see directly in front of me, and then the percussion from that muzzle flash I could feel being, the percussion had nowhere to go. It was straight on at us, and I could feel the percussion. So I could see the muzzle flash, feel the percussion, and with the muzzle flash, it then gave illumination to that hallway. So at that time, I could see can I stand up, Judge?
Sure.
You may.
So I could see in the hallway, if you or me, I could see in the hallway a subject, and I could not tell if it was a male or a female, in a shooting stance at the ready here, and it lit up that figure. So if I'm you, or I'm where you're at, I see the muzzle flash, I get illumination from that muzzle flash, and then I can see a shadowy silhouette of a figure, and I couldn't identify whether it was a male or a female.
Could you tell whether there was more than one figure there?
I could not.
And you've previously, in your statement we saw played the other day, said you thought that individual was armed with a rifle, an AR-15.
Given the factors I just described to you, the large muzzle flash, the loud percussion or the boom of the gun, and the way the shooter was in a stance, it was what I would call a tactical, or like an army stance or a tactical shooting stance. They were at the ready, already gun up on the door.
How could you see that if Sergeant Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove are in that doorway also?
And I don't know where Detective Cosgrove was, but Sergeant Mattingly was up front, and he was the one that was closest to, I guess, the door jamb when that door first came open. So he would have been in front of me. To my left, Detective Miles would have been, I don't know where Detective Miles was, I don't recall, I don't have any, even in the stack, I don't remember where he was at, but he had to have been somewhere to my left.
When you saw that muzzle flash, what's the next thing that happened?
Immediately, Sergeant Mattingly goes down.
Was anything said at that point?
I believe he said that he said, "I'm hit or I'm down," one or the other.
And is Sergeant Mattingly a friend of yours?
Yeah, he is.
So when that happened, what did you do?
Well, where we were at, and this is trained in the academy, we were in that fatal funnel, it's been, I guess, touched on, but I'll describe more in detail. The fatal funnel is an area you don't want to be in on a search warrant. Okay, you want to get out of that area as quickly as possible. You're trained from day one. Do not stay in the fatal funnel. You have to go through the fatal funnel at some point to make entry into wherever you're getting entry into. So I knew facing that muzzle flash and there's an active shooter directly in front of me, we're not going to continue making entry into that apartment and taking rounds. I spun out to my left, kind of in a similar fashion that Detective Nobles did with the Ram previously, and ran back through the breezeway. I did not want to be in the fatal funnel. I know that people die in the fatal funnel as it is. Sergeant Madding is now to my left on the ground. So I want to get out of that fatal funnel as quickly as possible and get to a location where I can return rounds.
What do you know, was Sergeant Mattingly out of commission, or was he returning round?
I don't know.
How about Miles Cosgrove?
At that time, I did not know.
You don't know whether anybody was firing back, correct?
Correct.
Did you continue to hear rounds?
Yeah, the firing began as in the best of my memory, a volley back and forth, or two different guns. And as I made that corner back out towards the sliding glass door, I get illumination, a bright illumination from a muzzle flash. And the reason I say it's a muzzle flash is because it's a bright illumination, the bright flash, and with the loud percussion I get from what sounds to be rifle fire. And as I made that corner, that percussion, that muzzle flash intensified. intensified.
And was it your perception that that muzzle flash was coming from your brother officers?
No, sir.
What did you think?
I knew Sergeant, excuse me, I knew Sergeant Mattingly was down, and I knew they were trying to get to him. And it appeared to me that they were being executed with this rifle.
So what did you do?
I returned fire through, excuse me, through the sliding glass door. And that did not stop the threat.
What were you firing at?
The muzzle flashes that I could see in the apartment that were illuminated by that illuminated that sliding glass door.
And did you continue firing? Do you know how many rounds you discharged?
At that time, no, sir.
And did you continue firing?
I fired, and then I assessed. After firing through the sliding glass door, I assessed, and the firing continued.
And what did you do?
I moved from my left to my right from the breezeway towards the bedroom window that was now being illuminated by that muzzle flash. Okay, it's been testified to numerous times that there was a drape or blinds there, and that's accurate. But that was still lighting up that bedroom window. Both bedroom windows were still being lit up. So in my mind, I perceived that threat, which I clearly identified as a threat, an active threat. I thought that if I could get to that bedroom window, I could put rounds through that bedroom window and stop the shooter who, from the last place I had eyes on them, which was seconds before that.
Okay. How long did this go on, if you can estimate?
From the first shot,
Yes.
I would say
Did you fire the last shot?
after I shot return fire through that bedroom window, the threat stopped. All firing ceased that time, and in my mind, the threat was stopped or eliminated.
Okay. And are you able to estimate how long it was from the time the first shot that struck Sergeant Mattingly till your last shot?
I would say somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds.
That quick?
Correct.
Okay, after you fired your last round, what did you see and what did you do?
I could hear, now I didn't want to take my eyes off the target. I wasn't sure if the threat had been stopped or not. I knew Sergeant Mattingly was down. I could hear to my left. So if you remember when you were out at the scene, I was somewhere between, on the sidewalk area between bedroom 2 and the sliding glass door. I kept my gun and my attention on where the threat could come from. Now, we have a few different places in play, that being the front door, the sliding glass door, or the 2-bedroom windows. So I kept my attention focused on that. I knew that everyone else was in the process. I could hear a large commotion. It sounded like wrestling going on, but to my left. So out on the sidewalk, I knew Sergeant Mattingly, they had now got him out of the breezeway.
And where was everybody else?
Tending to Sergeant Mattingly to my left.
So you-
My left behind, but like I said, I never turned and looked because I didn't want to take my eye off the apartment in case the shooter advanced, which the whole time was my fear that the person with the rifle, the shooter, was going to advance out on us. I felt, I don't know what the best word to describe it is, I felt helpless knowing that I had a handgun and I was facing rifle fire, and even though I had a tactical vest on, I knew that was no match for if the shooter came out with the rifle.
And then what, they're all tending to Sergeant Mattingly. You've got your gun pointed at the apartment?
Correct.
And what, if anything, did you do?
I got on the radio. I knew that we went from 7 detectives to me. I later saw Detective Cosgrove to my left or on the sidewalk at some point, but at that time it was just me and the threat because I know they were trying to evacuate or get Sergeant Mattingly treatment, and I knew that he was shot. I just didn't know. I didn't know what his status was.
So you got on the radio and did what?
I called at 10:30.
What's a 10:30?
Officer needs assistance.
And where did that go, do you know?
I had switched over from our narcotics channel to our primary channel, which is monitored by the patrol cars or patrol units. And I actually switched to the wrong channel, so I came over the downtown, as testified to yesterday by Sergeant Renaud, or Officer Renaud. My transmission came over his channel downtown, which is the 1st Division. And I yelled 10:30, officer needs assistance, and an officer was down.